Hey everyone, and welcome to a deep dive that promises to be quite a journey, I think. It's really fascinating how something as intangible as the soul, has captivated us humans for millennia. And today we are diving into Conrad Reicher's Soul Search. It's a book that grapples with this very enigma.
Yeah, SoulSearch is a really thought-provoking exploration of the soul,
Mm,
and it examines it not just through the lens of philosophy,
yeah.
but also through cultural and personal experiences.
Exactly. Yeah. And one of the first things that really struck me was how Riker tackles this whole challenge of defining the soul.
Mm.
It's not like we can just pull out a dictionary and bam, there it is. We all agree.
No.
In fact, Riker points out that this whole concept of a soul that's separate from the body, it's a relatively recent development, historically speaking.
Yeah, that's true. Before the 1800s, many cultures didn't really make a clear distinction between the physical and the spiritual selves the way we often do today. The ancient Greeks were really among the first to grapple with this whole idea of the soul as this independent entity. And it's something that sparked, centuries of debate about the nature of consciousness, morality, and what it means to be human.
It's kind of mind-boggling when you really consider how differently people have perceived the soul, across time and across cultures. Like, just imagine what would it mean for our understanding of our own personal identity if instead of having an enduring soul, we were simply this, continuous stream of consciousness. It really makes you question some fundamental assumptions.
Absolutely. And this leads us to one of the most, enduring philosophical debates of all time,
Yeah.
the relationship between the soul and the body.
Right. And Riker really delves into this in Soul Search. He explores perspectives ranging from Descartes' dualism, where the soul is seen as this separate entity that's controlling the body, to Aristotle's view of the soul as, this animating principle of the body. So
Mhm.
two sides of the same coin, inseparable, intertwined.
Yeah, and Descartes' influence on Western thought is undeniable. His emphasis on the soul as the seat of reason and consciousness. It's really shaped our understanding of what makes us uniquely human. But Aristotle's perspective offers a fascinating kind of counterpoint. If we consider the soul and body as this intertwined thing, how does that then influence our understanding of things like moral agency? Like, where does responsibility for our actions lie if the soul and body are not these distinct entities that are pulling us, in different directions?
It's a question with really profound implications, particularly when we start to consider the concept of moral responsibility, which Soul Search dives into as well. Riker highlights, these contrasting views on free will. You've got the Western perspective, particularly within Christianity, where free will is absolutely paramount. God gives us choices, and our souls are judged based on the decisions that we make.
And this contrasts so sharply with Eastern philosophies like Hinduism, which emphasizes the concept of karma. In this view, our souls are on this continuous journey of action and consequence, and it spans lifetimes. Free will in this context becomes less about, individual choices in any given moment and more about the overall trajectory of the soul's evolution, over countless lifetimes.
So it's not just about our actions in this life, but the ripple effects that they create across time and existence itself. Now, that's a truly humbling thought.
It certainly challenges us to consider the potential consequences of our choices from a much broader perspective. And this difference in cultural and philosophical frameworks becomes even more apparent when we start to examine ethical dilemmas. Take, for example, the classic thought experiment of the trolley problem. Would you flip a switch to save 5 lives, knowing that it would mean sacrificing one?
Ooh, that's a question that's designed to make us squirm a little bit.
It is. And Soul Search highlights how different cultures might approach this very dilemma. In many Western cultures, the emphasis is often on minimizing harm, on saving the greatest number of lives possible. However, some Eastern philosophies might view this kind of intervention as disrupting a natural order. And that potentially leads to unintended consequences, even if it does result in a greater loss of life in that immediate situation.
Yeah, talk about a thought-provoking ethical dilemma. It really highlights how, differently we might approach these questions of morality depending on, our cultural background and our beliefs about the soul. And speaking of differing beliefs, we can't really dive into the soul without addressing what happens after death, right?
Absolutely. It's a question that has captivated humanity. For as long as we've contemplated our own existence, and in Soul Search, Riker provides this fascinating overview of various afterlife beliefs. He starts with the Western concept of heaven and hell.
Mhm.
And, you might be picturing pearly gates and fluffy clouds, but Riker points out that these images are often, metaphorical representations of deeper theological concepts.
Right. It's not necessarily about arriving at some physical location up in the clouds, but rather about entering a state of being, a state of eternal connection with or separation from the divine, depending on your beliefs and actions in life.
Exactly. It's about the soul's ultimate destination and its relationship to a higher power. And this contrasts with Eastern concepts like reincarnation. We see this in Hinduism and Buddhism. And here, the soul's journey, it extends beyond just a single lifetime. It embarks on this cycle of death and rebirth driven by karma.
It's like this cosmic tapestry with threads of cause and effect just weaving our souls through multiple existences. It's fascinating how this idea of reincarnation isn't about judgment or punishment in like the traditional sense, but rather about growth and evolution.
Precisely. It's about learning from our experiences, accumulating wisdom, and ultimately striving for liberation from this cycle of suffering. Raker doesn't stop there, though. He expands our understanding of the afterlife even further. He delves into these other diverse cultural perspectives, ancient Egyptian rituals, indigenous Australian dreamtime. Each one offers these unique interpretations of what lies, beyond this earthly realm.
It's incredible how all these various beliefs, while they're different in their details, they all speak to this universal human fascination with death and what might lie beyond. And, this deep dive into the afterlife wouldn't be complete without at least mentioning near-death experiences, which Riker also explores.
Yeah, near-death experiences offer this really tantalizing, albeit subjective glimpse into the possibility of consciousness existing independently of the body. While we can't definitively prove or disprove these accounts, they raise these really profound questions about the nature of reality, the mind-body connection, and the potential for the soul to endure beyond physical death.
It's like those stories offer this little crack in the door of our understanding. They hint at something more, something beyond our current comprehension. But, shifting our focus back to this life, SoulSearch doesn't just leave us pondering the mysteries of the afterlife. Riker brings it back down to earth by exploring how understanding the soul can impact our lives right here, right now. He explores the concept of personal growth as soul growth, this continuous journey of self-discovery and transformation.
Yeah, and it's a fascinating concept that resonates across various traditions. In Buddhism, for example, the emphasis on meditation and detachment from material desires is seen as this path to enlightenment, this profound shift in the soul's awareness. Similarly, in Christianity, acts of service and following the teachings of Jesus are viewed as ways to cultivate a deeper connection with the divine, a form of soul growth that aligns with one's faith.
So it's not just about achieving external success or accumulating possessions. It's about cultivating a richer inner life. It begs the question, what steps are we taking, you and I, to nurture our own soul growth? What practices or beliefs resonate with us and help us on this journey of self-discovery?
It is a deeply personal journey, and as Riker points out, it's not always this linear path to enlightenment. There will be challenges, moments of doubt, and even setbacks along the way. But it's in these very struggles that we often experience the most profound growth.
Yeah, that really resonates with me. It's like that saying, the only way out is through. Sometimes we need to confront the difficult emotions, the shadows within ourselves in order to emerge as more whole and integrated beings. And Soul Search doesn't shy away from these more challenging aspects of the human experience. Riker explores how, even in the face of suffering, the concept of the soul can provide this framework for meaning making.
He shares this really poignant story about a man named Jim who found solace in the idea of the soul during a particularly difficult period in his life. Jim was grappling with this midlife crisis, questioning his purpose, his identity. And the belief in a soul and something eternal and unchanging within him, it provided this sense of grounding amidst all the turmoil.
It's like that belief in something larger than ourselves, something that transcends our fleeting experiences, can offer a sense of hope and continuity even when everything else feels uncertain.
And Riker goes on to share another story, this time about a young woman named Jane was grieving the loss of a loved one, and for her, this belief in a soul and some form of continuation beyond physical death, it brought her comfort. It provided this sense of hope that her loved one's essence, their spirit, continued to exist in some way.
These stories really illustrate the power of the soul as this source of strength and resilience in the face of life's inevitable challenges. But Soul Search doesn't just offer anecdotal evidence. Riker delves into that fascinating and often controversial realm of scientific exploration into the soul.
That's right. He acknowledges that proving the soul's existence through scientific methods is a challenging endeavor, to say the least. But he also presents some compelling research and arguments that suggest we shouldn't be so quick to dismiss the possibility.
Yeah, he talks about the work of Dr. Ian Stevenson, who dedicated his entire career to investigating reincarnation. Stevenson documented literally thousands of cases of children who claimed to remember past lives, and they often provided these very specific details that seem to align with historical records. Now, while skepticism is understandable, the sheer volume of these accounts is hard to ignore.
It really pushes the boundaries of our conventional understanding.
Hmm.
And it's not just reincarnation that Riker explores. He delves into the world of indigenous healing practices, where this concept of soul retrieval is central.
It's a fascinating concept. The idea is that trauma or illness can actually cause fragmentation of the soul, and this can lead to various physical or emotional ailments. These traditions believe that by retrieving and reintegrating these lost soul parts, healing can occur on this much deeper level.
It's an approach that recognizes the interconnectedness of mind, body, and spirit. And while Western medicine might not fully embrace these practices, there's growing evidence that incorporating spirituality into healing can have this really positive impact on overall well-being.
It speaks to the idea that we are more than just physical beings. There's this spiritual dimension to our existence that deserves attention and care. But, even if we can't definitively prove the soul's existence, through scientific means, Riker argues that the very act of searching for it, of grappling with these profound questions, can be transformative in its own right.
It's about expanding our understanding of what it means to be human, of our place in the universe, of the mysteries that lie beyond our current comprehension. It's about embracing the unknown, the possibility that there's more to life than what we can perceive with just our five senses.
It's about cultivating a sense of awe and wonder, wouldn't you say? And that brings us to another really crucial aspect of soul search, the soul's role in our search for meaning.
It's a universal quest, isn't it? We all yearn for the sense of purpose, for something that gives our lives significance beyond just the day-to-day routines. Riker reminds us that throughout history, the concept of the soul has provided this framework for understanding our place in the cosmos.
From the ancient Greeks, who saw the soul as this embodiment of reason, to various religious traditions that view the soul as the essence of our being, the concept has shaped our understanding of what it means to live a meaningful life. And even in this modern era, with its emphasis on reason and scientific inquiry, the question of the soul continues to intrigue us and challenge us.
Thinkers like Nietzsche, for example, questioned the existence of the soul altogether. He argued that it was really just this construct that limited human potential. But even in his rejection of these traditional notions of the soul, Nietzsche still grappled with this very fundamental human need for meaning and purpose.
It's like the concept of the soul, regardless of whether we believe in its literal existence, provides us with this lens through which we can explore some of life's most profound questions about who we are, why we're here, and what truly matters. It's fascinating how the soul, even though it's this intangible concept, it has this power, to shape our whole understanding of the world. Riker really drives that point home in Soul Search. He doesn't just explore, these different beliefs about what the soul is. He actually encourages us to examine how those beliefs influence our values, our relationships, even our actions in the world. What really struck me was this connection that Riker draws between the soul and social justice.
Yeah, that's a really powerful aspect of the book. And it's one that might not immediately come to mind when we think about, the soul Riker's argument is that our understanding of the soul, or even the lack of it, has these profound implications for how we treat one another,
Yeah.
and how we strive for a more, just and compassionate world.
Exactly. He cites the example of Martin Luther King Jr., whose deep faith and belief in the inherent dignity of every human soul, that fueled his fight for civil rights. And it wasn't just about changing laws. It was about changing hearts and minds, about recognizing the sacred worth of every single individual, regardless of, race or background.
And this idea resonates beyond any one, religious or cultural context. Riker also explores this concept of liberation theology, which is this movement that emphasizes using our spiritual beliefs to challenge oppression and to fight for social justice. It's about recognizing that the soul's liberation is intertwined with our collective liberation from, systems of injustice.
Yeah, it's like that saying, none of us are free until all of us are free. Our own individual soul's journey, it's not separate from that collective journey toward a more just and equitable world.
Precisely. And Riker doesn't shy away from the challenges that we face, in today's world, particularly in this increasingly digital age that we live in. He acknowledges how this constant, influx of information and the demands of social media and this blurring of boundaries between our personal and professional lives can make it really difficult to connect with our inner selves.
Yeah, it's like we're constantly bombarded with distractions, and it can feel really overwhelming at times. It makes you wonder, how do we even begin to navigate this digital landscape without losing sight of our own souls, our own inner compass?
Well, Riker offers some really practical advice. He suggests that we approach technology with more intentionality.
Hmm.
Set some boundaries for yourself. Carve out time for solitude and reflection, and really try to curate your digital experiences in a way that nourishes your soul rather than depletes it.
It's about finding that balance, right? Engaging with the digital world without letting it completely consume us, and remembering that technology can also be a tool for connection and for inspiration.
Absolutely. Riker points out that social media, for example, can be used to foster these meaningful conversations, to connect with like-minded people, and to build communities around shared values. It's about being mindful of how we use these tools and remembering that we have the power to shape our own digital experiences.
It's about choosing to focus on content that uplifts us, that inspires us, that nourishes our souls. And speaking of nourishment, I keep coming back to this idea of the soul's journey as this process of continuous growth and evolution. It's not about arriving at some fixed destination. It's about embracing the journey itself. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's a beautiful way to frame it. SoulSearch reminds us that the soul, however we define it, is not static. It's this dynamic force within us that's constantly evolving through our experiences, our relationships, and our interactions with the world.
It's like that quote, the journey is the destination. It's in the seeking, the questioning, the continuous process of self-discovery that we really truly connect with those authentic selves.
And that's where SoulSearch leaves us, with this incredible sense of possibility and a call to action. Raker doesn't pretend to have all the answers, but he invites us to embark on our own journeys of self-exploration, to delve into the mysteries of the soul, and to discover what resonates with each of us on a personal level.
It's about asking those big questions, right? The ones that keep us up at night, questions about our purpose, our values, our place in this grand scheme of things. And it's about embracing the unknown, the mystery that lies at the heart of existence.
SoulSearch reminds us that the soul is not just this abstract concept that's confined to these dusty old philosophy books. It's this living, breathing force that animates our lives, shapes our experiences, and connects us to something so much larger than ourselves.
It's the source of our creativity, our compassion, our capacity for love and connection.
And as we conclude our deep dive into SoulSearch, I want to leave you, our listener, with one final invitation. Take a moment to connect with your own soul. What is it yearning for? What wisdom does it hold? What is its purpose?
These are questions worth pondering, questions that can guide us on our own unique journeys of self-discovery. And Soul Search provides us with a roadmap, but ultimately it's up to each of us to chart our own course.
And as we navigate the complexities of life, let's remember that we don't have to do it alone. We're all on this journey together, connected by our shared humanity and our shared search for meaning.
Beautifully said. And on that note, we'll leave you to continue your own soul-searching adventures. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep listening to those whispers of your soul.